Hello, BookTube. It's a back-to-back video today. I wanted to stress also, in addition to Nonfiction November, that this is also the first day of NaNoWriMo. And for those of you who might not know, that's National Novel Writing Month, in which tens of thousands of people from all over the world come together in the month of November to write 50,000 words towards the first draft of a novel. That's 1,667 words per day minimum to get it done. Uh, and it's an amazing experience. It really is. I've been doing it for years, and I'm doing it this year. I wouldn't miss it for the world. The only accoutrement that I'm lacking is the Viking helmet that has become synonymous with voyaging into the unknown with NaNoWriMo. I don't have one. And I couldn't help but notice that in the newsroom of the Christian Science Monitor, where I go, twice a week, there is a Viking helmet just sitting on a table, and I'm tempted to ask if I can borrow it for the month, but I'm worried that it actually belongs to Jesus, in which case, he might be touchy about such things. But one way or another, helmet or no, I have started NaNoWriMo with my story, Markowitz and the Mystery Woman. I'm very greatly relieved to report that I did not have a last-minute change of heart. I am sticking with this story, a contemporary story set in the present day, buses and cell phones. I don't even know how to write such things. It'll be a learning experience. But NaNoWriMo's philosophy is to write with the brakes off. The only way you will make this word count is if you stop fussing and just generate material. You can do what you want with it later on, but the point is to get it done. The point is to get 50,000 words done, as opposed to what many, many thousands of people doing NaNoWriMo this year and every year have done beforehand, which is to only think about doing it, or to plan on doing it, to sketch out doing it, but not to actually do it. The NaNoWriMo philosophy is better it's done than it's done well. You can do the doing well part later on. First it has to be done, or we have nothing to talk about. I love that philosophy. Long before there was a NaNoWriMo, long before any of the people involved in NaNoWriMo were even born, I was stressing that to one would-be writer after another. That's the most important thing. GM, the number one rule, generate material. If there's no material, there's nothing to talk about. It's the doing of it that will not only give you satisfaction, but teach you how to do it. Not the planning of it, not the reading about it. Only the doing of it will teach you how to do it, and then how to do it well. But I'll be talking about that ad nauseum for the rest of the month. The main point I want to make today, on the first day of NaNoWriMo, is that it's not too late for you to start. If you've been thinking about this and haven't committed, commit. Do it. You won't know how it works on you. You won't know how good you are at it until you try. And the reasons that you have come up with not to do it this time around, this year, that I've got a kid, I've got multiple kids, I've got school, I work full time, I'm always really tired, I have various health problems, I have family crises, I have a couple of big things coming up. Now is not the time, this year is not the year. The point I want to stress to you, with all the respect in the world for the viability of all of those factors, is that they will always be true. And it's, if you want to write, if you don't, if it's just, a thrill or an add-on thing, fine, then those things take precedent, and definitely you should do them. But if you want to write, if it's always been in your mind that you're a writer, or that you want to be a writer, NaNoWriMo Day 1 is a perfect opportunity for you to take a big, deep breath, take a mental step back, and realize that those things will always be true. There will always be more reasons not to write than to write. And that if you really mean this, it means you have to dig in to your bag of tricks and find those 1,600 words every day. Find them and add them to all the other stuff you do. It's what writers do. I can testify to that, even though I am not a published fiction writer. I am a published writer. I work on deadline. And I can testify firsthand that at any given day, on the morning of a deadline, a million things will swarm in. even in my life, which is largely stripped bare of other things, it largely is, even in my life, things will crowd in. Is there some other writing commitment that you really should get to? Is an old dog feeling sick and might not want you to turn your attention away to something else? Is there a friend in it from out of town that might, any number of things. It's fewer things with me, but it happens with everybody. And the key at that moment is to say, well, no, this needs to be done. Just as simple as that. So I want to stress that it's not too late to dive in to NaNoWriMo. Even if you don't do 1,667 words a day, even if you do 1,000 words a day, you won't quote unquote win NaNoWriMo. You won't reach 50,000 words at the end of the month, but you'll still have done something, a lot more than you would have otherwise. That is the NaNoWriMo refrain that they repeat in their discussion forums and their groups all the time, which is that this 50,000 words at the end of November is 50,000 more words than you would have written if you didn't do it. So you should do it. And the reason that I stress this on the first day of NaNoWriMo is because incremental word counts, do 500 a day, do 1,000 a day, something's better than nothing. That's very good, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. But the fun of NaNoWriMo is to be doing the impossible. The fun of NaNoWriMo is to be making your word count every day. And if you want to experience the full fun of that, and I highly urge you to do it, and don't do it in solitude either. That's not the way to do NaNoWriMo. Join the groups, make friends, add people as buddies, do sprints together, encourage each other, that sort of thing. Keep each other going and take encouragement from other people. The communal aspect of NaNoWriMo is by far the most important part of it. But no matter how you do it, if you do that, the word count, the 1,667 words a day with an aim of 50,000 by the end of the month, I've mentioned before on this channel, the one thing that you really don't want to do is fall behind. There are miracle stories all through NaNoWriMo, the NaNoWriMo community, and I'm sure you can access them, of people who make up for lost time. They say, well, I work Monday through Wednesday full-time at the emergency room or, on my construction job, but then my work schedule actually does legitimately become lighter in the second half of the week. So I'm going to write less at the first half and make it up in the second half. That does happen. People do that. But it's better to set good habits early, and that number, 1,667, becomes quite ominous later in the month as you grow tired of your story and you grow tired of, you lose the forward momentum, the rush of the beginning. It's better to have a cushion. The wiser heads at NaNoWriMo always advise, write more in the early parts so that you have a cushion to fall back on when you hit the inevitable doldrums in week 2 and the beginning of week 3. But no matter how you do it, you have the tools at your disposal, and I believe you have the time at your disposal. I believe it can be found. Not if it's a whim. If it's a lark and it looks like fun to you with the funny helmet and the multitude of YouTube videos, people going slowly out of their minds. If it just looks like fun, but you've got a lot on your plate, fine. But if you're the smaller group of people who say, writing means something to me, I want to be a writer, or even I consider myself a writer, okay, then you're never going to have a more inviting opportunity to get writing done than NaNoWriMo. And it's a point I'll come back to in these NaNoWriMo videos a little later on. I don't mean to be stern on day one, but I thought I'd wrap up this little NaNoWriMo day one video with a point that I've also made since time immemorial, since long before there was a NaNoWriMo, which is that only people who write are writers. If you don't write, don't call yourself a writer. It's only people who get in the scrum and actually do the work who are. You wouldn't walk around all day calling yourself an airline pilot unless you had flown planes. It's something that has bothered me about aspiring writers the whole time I've known them, which is forever, which is that their tendency to think that because they can actually write words, because they learned how to write in school, that they are writers. And of course, that's not the case at all. And you don't get to say it until you do it, until you try it. But I'll stress that later on. The main point is an invitation. Jump on in. It's the first. Here in Boston, it's early on the first. But no matter where you are, no matter when, it actually doesn't take that long to write 1,600 words. It really doesn't. And they don't have to be perfect. And you don't have to know what you're doing either. You don't even have to know what the early part of your story is going to be. The first 1,600 words can simply set the stage, just to get you warmed up, limbered up, to be doing paragraphs, to be sifting words, to be flowing them out of you. Give it a try here on day one and see what happens. See how you feel if you reach 1,667 words at some point today, and close your laptop. I bet you'll like the feeling. But we'll talk more about it later on. Thank you, BookTube.